Hey guys, it's Allie here. Just a fun live stream for you. This was brought up by a really amazing prompt by Jen Gomez-Gill and some other beautiful people. And so I wanted to invite you guys all in for this discussion because it's such a great, like Jen brought up an amazing question. And that was, how do you know you're channeling? And does it matter if you're channeling? You know, and so I wanted to invite you guys in. I'm going to invite some people onto this live stream so we can all chat away and enjoy the day together. So as you hop on, say hello. And so long story short, after the Anthony Bourdain stuff started to come up, someone named Jen asked a great question for those of you who are just joining, which is, how do you know you're channeling? And does it matter? And she brought up a great question, which is something we cover in depth as a mindset thing, as a mental and emotional thing in Infinitely Wise Woman. So I'm curious, for those of you guys who are channels or who have thought about this, how many of you have wondered, am I channeling? How do I know I'm channeling? Because there's a lot of layers to this question. So if you've ever wondered, am I channeling? How do I know that I'm channeling? I invite you to share that here. I had a lot of those questions when I started to go through these shifts in my consciousness, which is really the collective consciousness. So what you go through, lots of people are going through, just experiencing different ways. That's why so many people are having these things happen and not sure how to talk about it. So that's what this space is for us to all come together and have the experience of talking about it. So I wanted to invite you guys in. Please welcome. As you guys hop on, say hello. I would love for you guys to be able to get your questions answered about this. If this is something that you're like, oh my gosh, I've been wondering about this for so long and I'm not sure how to know if what I'm doing is what I'm doing and if it matters, right? Because a lot of people are like, does it matter? Does it matter if you're channeling or not? So who has had that question of, am I channeling? I'm not sure. And does it matter? And how do I know who I'm channeling? And it doesn't matter who. That is a great one. Does it matter who? Does it even matter? So, hey Marina, hey Candy. Hey Julie. Hey Michelle, hey Lori, what up? So, okay, so here's my perspective on channeling, and here's what, I've got Eric's hanging over here in the team. He's like a mouthpiece, and he's got his like blowhorn, the loudspeaker. So, channeling is the act of channeling nature. What? The what? Oh, it's spicy? Go have a drink of water, okay? Or drink some water. What's the matter? Finn's having a mo. Had spicy food. Hey, Emily. We're talking about channeling. So, you want some water? Okay. So, I would love to hear, do you guys get wrapped up in questions like, am I channeling? Is it a message or is it an imagination? How do I know who it's from? Or how do I trust who it's from? Do you guys get caught up in that type of stuff? I know I used to go, how do I know if it's me or something else? Or what is it? Where's that from? I don't have gummy things, baby. I'm sorry.
No, the bear one.
Oh, a gummy thing? All right, that's enough. I want you to go watch your show, okay, for a second. So what happens a lot of the time is we get really caught up in those types of things.
I want to pick one.
Okay. We get caught up in those types of things. We get caught up in all these questions,
pick one.
Pick one. Pick one gummy vitamin. So we get really caught up in this stuff like, Who is it? How do I know? How do I trust? Like all that type of stuff.
Too far down.
Just one, baby. Or like bring it to mom and I'll help you. You get one and come here and bring it back. Yeah. Bring it to mama.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to share. I trust finally and do it fully. Yay! I don't care who it's from. Awesome, Julie. Yeah, Eric's like, who gives a fuck? Because it is all source. All source all the time. He's like, guess what? You're talking and you don't think you got a spiritual message coming through? Doesn't matter. You're still channeling. He said, he's going, what you guys need to understand about consciousness is consciousness doesn't need a body. Consciousness expresses itself in infinite forms, and that is grass being grass. He's like, that's a vessel for consciousness. It's a vessel for source. So does it matter who? No. Are you channeling? Yes. And he said it's a twofold question. One, you are always channeling yourself, the divine being, the divine essence that source wanted to co-create and bring through you, your what you consider you, your body, your vessel. He said, he's like the sun. The sun is a vessel for source. The sun is a way that source wanted to express itself. So here's the deal, you guys. When you ask, am I channeling? Does it matter? So what Jen mentioned was, why does channeling matter? Like, how do you know you're channeling? And she said, doesn't matter who. And he said, fuck, no, it doesn't. For the sake of your consciousness collective's perspective, where you guys are at right now in your evolutionary journey, is that channeling serves the purpose of, awakening, but also alluding to an awakening is like saying that source is incomplete in itself, and it's not incomplete in itself. Source is complete as it is. Source doesn't need to awaken. Source does not need evolutionary consciousness. It doesn't need the process of evolution. It allows the unfolding of evolution for its free will thinking source parts. So in your society, in human society, what you believe is collective consciousness evolution is actually a gentle unfolding of awareness of the fullness and omnipresence that you already are. You're timeless, eternal beings. Like he's like, you guys got the goods. You got all the infinite awareness, and that's why Infinitely Wise Woman is such a big hit. It's because it's not about saying who's this message from and doesn't matter and all that stuff and all these other beings outside of me, because nothing's outside of you. All of them have more infinite intelligence than I do. I need to be able to tap into that, or I'm not going to know enough. No, you guys got the goods, just as being Allie, and you guys are hyper aware of your own I am presence, meaning source expressed through Allie, source expressed through Kurt, source expressed through Eric, source expressed through Paul Walker, source expressed through the sun and the stars and the moon and the trees and the wind and all the ET beings you can't see yet, all the non-physicals you can't see, all the thought forms you can't see and some of you can see. He's like, source has infinite expressions in your consciousness because you are still in separated consciousness to your perspective. So when you ask questions like, they're saying like the I am presence, it is all that is. You are all the one source. So back to the point is, there was like a conversation going on in this thread, and I was like, this is such a great topic. This is so good, because one of the things we really focus on in Infinitely Wise Woman that I believe really helps a lot of people with their skills, in their gifts, and also with their day-to-day loving life, feeling connected to everything and everyone's skills, is that we end up focusing on collective consciousness as a means of understanding that we are all source. You're not separate from your neighbor. You're not separate from your guides. You are not separate from the stars, the moon, the sun, and the sky. You are not separate from the ground, the earth. You're not separate from all the shit going on in the Middle East. You're not separate from Hitler. You're not separate. We are all the one. So when you're channeling, you're really just doing what comes naturally to you. And he's saying, in your channeling, whether or not you're channeling a non-physical being or something outside of you, because there's nothing outside of you. When you are talking and just having a regular conversation with a friend, you're channeling. When you're painting, you're channeling. When you're sitting with your own thoughts, you're fucking channeling. Because your body is your mind, this thing, he's like, what you guys associate with the mind is the brain. That is just a vessel for consciousness, for source to express itself. So does it matter who? No. Now, where who comes in and matters most in the context of channeling or mediumship, etc., is when people have lost a loved one. And he said, and this is where a lot of you spiritual leaders can have a lot more fucking compassion. He's being really direct. He has a lot of compassion saying this. You need to remember that it's okay to say to people, work from your own perspective. Yeah, of course it's all source. You know, you just return to love and light, and it's all source and all that good stuff. What I want you guys to consider important is that some people are not at that awareness in their evolutionary journeys. They have lost loved ones, and they want to know that that loved one is still alive and well in our realm. And it's very important to them to be able to hear, yes, my Uncle Joe McIntosh McGuire McGill IV specifically is speaking to me, and he's well. That's very important in their evolutionary consciousness journey for that individual. It's very important to have that level of compassion for people that you are speaking to, because there's many people on your earth who are not in this state of awareness that we're all one and that source is all that is, and they may have that understanding deep down, and you can offer them an and both. And this is what we teach a lot in Infinitely Wise Women. If you choose to become a medium, doesn't matter, or if you're going to go choose to share spiritual messages, he's like, you're going to catch some flack here and there, because people are like, but how do you know? How do you know? How do you know it's Anthony Bourdain? How do you know it's Eric? How do you know it's so-and-so? And he said, the people who are channeling and who are bringing through specific names and entities understand the and both of this is all source. It's source as Eric, it's source as Allie, and source taking unique expressions because it's fucking fun, because that's what it wants, because that's what you want to do experience in this lifetime, so that's what you got to work with. But it's also that particular being. He said, what a gift to humanity to understand that you are both pure source energy and also get to have the unique experience of being Allie or Eric or Finn or the stars or the moon or a plant growing in a garden or a bee buzzing around, stinging things and picking up pollens and just enjoying that very short season of life that exists for a bee. He's saying, I want you to know that as Allie's guide and teacher and her spirit, he calls himself my spirit brother, I am not any farther apart or away from anyone else. Hang on. We've got a visitor. He's like, hang on. 1 second, guys. I'm going to have to ask the guys to go away. Hey, guys. I'm on the phone. I can't. All right. There we go. Just had to relieve the dogs for a second. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't talk. So what they're saying is there's no separation. He's like, those guys that just rang the doorbell, there's no separation in them. That's Source's unique expression of itself through those beings and through Allie and through all of the collective consciousness that you guys are all part of and are tuned in, tapped in, turned on to all the time. That's just who and what you are. So he's saying, so when you ask, he's like, it gets really convoluted when you don't work with people where they are. And he tells me that all the time. He's like, you need to meet people where they are. That's what compassion is. And it's having the discernment to say, yeah, of course it doesn't matter who I'm channeling, but to someone who's grieving or someone who's very much in that awareness of, I don't trust, I'm really struggling to trust right now that what's coming through is true and that it's real. It helps for those types of people to be able to say, yeah, of course it's your sister. Of course she's still here. He said, consider that may be a very important step in that person's own relationship with God, to hear that unique being has a life going on after death, that you don't actually die. He said that's very often a step one for a lot of people. And so he's saying, so for those of you who are thinking about becoming channels where you're consciously tuning into non-physical, okay? He said, because again, you're all channels all day, all night. Doesn't matter what you label it. I don't care if you call it channeling. It doesn't matter to me as Allie. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what you call it. He's like, you're working on your car, you're channeling. Your body is not who you are. Your actions are not who you are. Your thoughts are not who you are. That source energy flowing through you, you're just the vessel. Everything you do, everything you say, it's just source being expressed in infinite ways that are all about your free will choosing. So what he's saying is, I want you guys to just be aware that there are people at different places on their spiritual journey. So when you choose to become a channel, like more officially, and you bring through messages from guides or teachers or All Buddha Krishna, source, like he's like, there's no level. If someone says, I channel pure source consciousness, he's like, well, la-di-da. Everyone's doing it all the time. You're all source, you're not better or worse. There is no sliding scale with God. There is no difference in someone who says, I channel Jesus versus someone who says, I channel Mary Magdalene. There is no difference between someone who says, I don't know how to channel and I'm not open and I'm really worried and I don't think I'm tapping into it. You're tapping into it all the time. You are it. You're it. You don't need a Buddha. You don't need a teacher. He's saying, now I love Buddha. He's saying, but I want to offer to you that you are all source, divine aspects of source. And so you don't have to be a channel in this way. You're not missing anything. If you want to have that relationship with the non-physical, guess what? You got it already. You just have to become aware of it. Right? And he said, now source is inside of you and all you're doing is walking around with this giant projection. It's like you're walking around and you get this amazing gift that is your life, and you get the experience of channeling physical and non-physical, and some people will never channel non-physical, not intentionally or aware, they will not be aware of it, but that doesn't matter. What matters is, do I like this journey? Am I happy? Is this working for me? Do I like it? Doesn't matter. There's nothing you need from channeling. Okay? It's not going to magically solve all of your problems. However, trust will make a big difference for everyone. It will make a big difference in, is this working? And what's my perspective on what it means for things to be working out? And am I happy? Trust unlocks a lot of doors in your consciousness, not just opening up to guides and teachers, although it does a fuckload of a good job there. It opens up your relationship with life. You become this conduit vessel of life, and the more you tap into your own inner knowing and trust in your own inner solid foundation of course I'm source, of course that tree's source, that's where egalitarian society will begin to come from. That it already exists in the consciousness. The concept is there, it's existed in the past, it exists right here and now. You just aren't able to see it and bring it to form yet because you guys are in separated states. So, and he said that's your perspective, and he's saying take off that fear focus and you'll see it, and change your perspective and you'll see it. So trust does matter when it comes to channeling. Many of you will go through the journey of, for your entire life, talking to specific teachers and guides, specific gurus, specific, there's Tina Louise Spalding, she channels Jesus, and that's in Ananda, the group collective consciousness, and that's it. There's some people who will only channel they'll just say, I don't know who I'm channeling. I don't know who's answering. I just know that it doesn't sound like me. And he said, who fucking cares? He's like, some people will never have that non-physical. They'll always only work with their own thoughts or what they think are their own thoughts. Doesn't matter. He's like, it really doesn't matter. No one's stuff is different. All you guys really need to fucking care about is, do I trust myself? Is the information feeling good? Does it feel right? How do I feel in my gut about it? And he's like, there's no wrong way. There's no wrong way. But I want you to check in with, is this fear or is this love? No matter what you're doing, no matter what your choices you're making, no matter what you're saying or what you're channeling, or he's like, or not. And he was like, even I'm a channel for source, and I'm dead, man. I don't even have a body anymore. He's saying, still my consciousness is a piece of source being expressed. That's it. So he's like, it's an and both. You get the joy of the separated self, which, again, he's like, it's not really separated, but the reason you come into this world, most of you, is to learn to love. Not learn to love, but to remember love and experience love through a relationship. That's what separation does. That's what it's for. The separated consciousness enjoys that aspect of itself so much that it continues to manifest into separated form, to have that experience of loving itself in infinite forms. He's like, it sounds narcissistic, but that's because you guys got issues with loving yourselves. He's like, there really is, narcissism's not, and he's like, we won't get into all that diagnosable or undiagnosable stuff. So what questions do you guys have for Eric or for me or for the, because he's got the whole team here, he's just kind of mouthpiecing. What questions do you guys have about channeling? How do you know you're channeling? How do you know you're a medium? How do you know who's talking to you? Some people will never ask the question of who's talking to me. They don't care to. Some people will never explore channeling. Doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So thank you to Jen Gomez-Gill for bringing this topic up, because this is a hot one. We cover this in Infinitely Wise Woman a lot. And so We also are going to do a lot more teachings in there about, you know, if you're wanting to open up these gifts, how do I talk about them? How do I share them with the world? What do I do when people are asking, who the fuck are you to channel Anthony Bourdain? Why do you know, how do you know it's Anthony Bourdain? Or how do you know it's Paul Walker? How do you know it's Eric? How do you know? And I'm like, I just trust. I just trust, and I see them and I feel them. I understand their source. I understand I'm source. I understand it's all source. I just read that unique expression and I fucking love it. And I'm cool with that. But I understand the oneness of all of us. I understand the love in all of it. And that's why I do what I do. And if I get to a point where I'm like, I don't want to do it this way anymore, it's not making me happy, I won't do it. I'll do it a different way. That's the joy of life. You get to, you know, make those choices and decide what makes you happy all the time. So questions. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Russell. Ashley, Dorothy, Sarah Jean, Sky. Do I have questions from anyone? Okay, Lori, how do you know when you're ready to channel and help others? You are always channeling. You are always being part of others' journey. So knowing that, when you think about ready to channel, that in this case implies mediumship. How do I know I'm ready and grounded enough as a medium, clear enough? Like, how do I know I'm channeling clearly? That was a big thing for me when I was first starting. How do I know I'm channeling clearly? They're saying you just have to trust. You can't get it wrong. Whatever message you give to that person in that moment, and we teach this a lot in Infinitely Wise Women, it comes up a lot with my private clients too. Whatever you give to that person is what they need in that moment. Whether you say, I'm channeling a guide, I'm channeling a loved one, or I'm just talking with this person, I don't think I'm channeling anything. Doesn't matter what you call it. The information they need to hear will come through in that moment. Sometimes it'll feel like a conversation with just you and them. It's never just. It's always all. It's always all of consciousness speaking to all of consciousness all the time, right? So they're saying, so you're ready right now. And so when you say, and help others, that what you're asking implies that you have a constriction, a condition. Your mind has a limitation on what it, or a specific form that it thinks helping others has to come in, which is totally fucking okay. Some people have very specific, I think this is what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do it for the purpose of yada. And I'm like, cool, go have that experience. That's probably what you came here for. That's the joy of our world, to have unique experiences that are unique to us, right? When you reach an awareness, I'm going to say a heightened state of awareness, which doesn't imply that other people don't have it. It means they're just not choosing to access it yet, or realize that they're accessing it already. What happens is you start to tap into other people's experiences. That's all the Akashic records are. Just so you guys know, like, that's all it is. And so it's a beautiful and both experience where you can share that message with them, and it's beautiful, and it doesn't always matter where it came from. However, when you're channeling as a medium for someone who has lost a loved one, so like a friend of mine, her father-in-law just passed away, it's very important to that person, and this is where people's nerves get in the way, or their fears, or their, you know, like blocks, and like, there aren't really blocks, but what happens is it's almost like your consciousness second guesses itself so much in that moment that it won't pull through information. Like, I had a client who came in and she said, hey, is there anything from my husband? He came through, and one of the very first things he said was, tell her I'm okay. She wanted to know, and she said, oh my God, I was gonna ask you, is he okay? And he kept saying, my suffering and my pain is over. And then he started showing me scenes of him golfing. Like, I was just seeing it, and I was like, does this mean anything to you? He's golfing, he's on a golf course. He says, I'm just playing the fair, like he was just like having fun. And he kept showing me a Bud Light specifically. So she goes, a Bud Light? And I was like, yeah, Bud Light specifically. And she goes, he always drank Miller. And I went, oh fuck, did I get that wrong? And he said, nope, just teasing my wife. You know what I mean? He wanted her to see that he wasn't such a stubborn ass anymore, and he could make choices to drink a different beer in heaven. So it was like, so it was, even though I questioned what I was seeing, even though I was like, oh shit, how did the information come through wrong? It wasn't wrong. His intention was to tease his wife, right? So there's always this and both going on, where you understand that you can't get it wrong, and that whatever is coming through for a reason. That person will understand the resonance, and she had a little chuckle at that. And I will say, there's a reason that it's coming through. There's a purpose for all of it. And so if you're getting into mediumship and you want to get really grounded, I would say practice, 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 which is what Infinitely Wise Woman is really all about. We're going to do a lot of intuition and tapping in experiments, not just in mediumship, but really for your consciousness intuition, like your unique experience. And a lot of them are tapping into collective stuff where you literally, in my perspective, this is part of what we teach, which helps people a lot, I feel, from what I've noticed, that we're all the collective, so you're always tapping into collective consciousness. And that's why sometimes I think people get so many ideas and are like, what's mine? What do I execute? I'm like, well, you can tap into collective ideas, but it's really, what do you resonate with? What feels fun and exciting for you? But you can also like deliver ideas to people and manifest, co-create things together. It's a really beautiful process. So you just have to understand that there's no right way or no wrong way, right? With mediumship. Sometimes you can say in a reading, hey, I'm not sure who or what this is coming from, but this is what I'm getting for you. And that person will understand, right? You have to trust the client just as much. What do you want? This? Okay, we need to be gentle with these, please. Okay, this one? You want a nectarine? Nectarine.
There's another one.
It's good. Yeah, why don't you go rinse it, please? Okay. Okay, up to you. I'm still stripping back the religious paradigms I grew up with, but intuition tells me that channeling is nothing that is outside of me. Exactly. Is it all within? Does that make sense? Everything is within you because you are the cosmic you. You are the global you. You are the prime source you, right? So Infinitely Wise Woman is very much about trusting the self, right? And trusting the self often comes with the God question. Where is God? Is God outside of me, or is it inside of me? Are my guides outside of me or inside of me? So what I will say is we do a lot of inner work where we're really looking at that relationship with God and deciding, making decisions. Do I want to hold to the belief system that source and information and wisdom comes from outside of me and I have to bring it in? Or do I believe that I've already got it, I just need to tap into it and tune into it because I'm part of it, right? So that's the big thing. Am I supported? Am I held? Where is this consciousness? What is it? Is there something bigger than me? I want to know I'm not alone. Well, you're not alone. You're part of all of it. So it does make sense. It totally makes sense, because a lot of people have the question, is it my imagination or intuition? Is it a message from another being or is it just me? And I'm like, does it matter? Does it matter? If you can't trust yourself and you don't think you're an infinite being with access to infinite wisdom, if you think you can fuck it up and get it wrong, then it'll always matter to you. You'll always look for answers outside of yourself. And if you have that experience of life, so fucking be it. Enjoy it. I mean, I can channel, but I still have friends, and I'm saying everyone can channel. I can talk to non-physical with a lot of confidence now, but I still have friends that I love to share those experiences with. I still go get medium readings. I like the experience of talking to other people where we probably have pieces of each other's consciousness puzzles that we're fitting together, not because anyone's missing out or lacking, but because we're meant to just partner together and share it and enjoy it. And just enjoy it together, So let yourself have the experience of doing it your unique way. And I keep being called to tell you, the more you question yourself, the more you will question source, because you are not at home in yourself. You're not anchored in your own trust for yourself. And that is a big global one, not just for Ashley. And I went through and still at times go through many trust things. But I have found that having this tuning into love, to pure source consciousness, which is me, but simply choosing loving thoughts, choosing loving emotions, choosing to have the perspective of I'm held, I'm supported, I can trust life, I can trust myself, I can trust the flow, and everything all the time has helped me a lot, because I'll get messages or I'll have a knowing about things at times when it is really crucially important for me to trust, like when you have stressful things happening in your life, like a divorce. It wasn't that stressful, but you know, there's paperwork and legal shit, and I didn't have lawyers because I didn't want them. So like, you know, you got messages coming in saying like, hey, all's well, lean back, it's all good. It helps, you know. You, Sarah, you're already channeling all the time, and you already know that because you're already a medium. And we've kind of shared that in the group. The world needs, everyone's messages. Everyone is equal and is an equal part of consciousness because we're all the one consciousness, so there's no hierarchy. There's no one who's better or worse or whose message is better or worse than anyone else's. I just heard Hitler was tapped into collective consciousness, but he was tapped into the fear frequency of it, and man, did he start a revolution. That was part of the point of his whole mission, was to revolutionize the world and show collective consciousness to itself, to end the war with the self. But it didn't fucking happen. That's why it keeps repeating, like we keep repeating it in different forms. What happens when a soul comes back into another life? Do they remember their previous family, or how does it work? Does the soul still visit the previous family? At the soul level, yes, the soul can visit all of its incarnations, which in non-linear time are happening all at the same time. They're all done, like it's just like that. So he's saying, so in linear time, you have the perception of, you know, you're in and out and you're in and out and you're in and out. So you're wondering, is there a waiting period? Does the higher self, which you guys think is separate but isn't, it's, you know, consciousness. He's like, man, you guys always think it's inside your body. It's not inside your body. Your body's just something you manifested to experience life with in a physical form. It's not where consciousness comes from. Consciousness creates your body, not the other way around, right? So they're saying Source's wisdom can be felt in all aspects of life, on Earth or anywhere else, in all of the many universes you exist in. So what happens is that Source expresses itself infinitely, and so Source itself will come to visit family members because it's like it's sitting at home with itself. Do you know what I'm saying? And they're saying, so of course, so say you've got a kid who passes away. He's saying, so Allie in another lifetime had a daughter who drowned. And so her daughter who drowned was able to come back and visit Allie as its mother while Allie was alive in that lifetime. That little girl has also come to visit Allie in this lifetime, right? Because she just knows her soul fam. He's like, it's really all just the same, and it gets really complicated and convoluted. But for the sake of this conversation, we're gonna say, Source knows itself, and the people you love never leave you. They never leave you. That is one of the most profound, loving things that I feel I've gotten from this work, which is also joy for me, is to tell people that their loved ones never leave them, because how could God leave itself? If it's just the one Source and it is pure unconditional love, why would it leave itself? Where else would it want to go or be? What else would it want to do? What would it want to do, you know? I absolutely love that you're sharing about making connections, creating relationships, and the importance of working together as a collective. Yeah, there's a massive movement towards this, Ashley. Like I've told people before, there's not much that I'm doing in the way. I still do some like private coaching, but all of my private coaching clients, I give them access to group experiences. And as for me personally, and what I've been hearing within my groups of friends and out in the collective, is that there's a massive call to community. We're going to see more... it's like a more loving form of tribe mentality, not in the segregated, my tribe's over here, this tribe's over there, is our tribe better than that one? It's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be an intermixing and intertwining. So I've actually been getting a lot of guidance personally. I'd love to hear if you guys are having similar things, calls to connect with people in person over and over and over, like more and more and more. They're like more out in Denver, Colorado. They were giving me cities to go to, like Seattle. I'm like, I've never thought about going to Seattle ever in my life. Like not in my life, like Tulsa, Oklahoma. They're like, go to these different cities, these different places, these different environments. It's important for you guys, whether or not you are a medium, a spiritual teacher, a channel, whatever the fuck you do, to go out into the world and get to know all of the aspects of yourself in other forms, in other people, in other environments. Those are all forms of you that a lot of times what you'll do is you'll group into, they're like, you guys do this, you cluster into the spiritual communities where I'm safe. The white people communities where I'm safe, the black people communities where I'm safe, you know, I'm a law enforcement officer, I gotta stick with my bros, you know, I gotta stick in the fast car clan. So make it an and both. You absolutely get to have your friendships with your people who get you, who are like you, who have similar beliefs. But here's the deal, you guys are basically whitewashing yourselves. And so what happens is, and they're using that really intentionally, whitewashing, and they're showing all these beautiful rainbow colors being covered over in white. And they're like, now the cool thing about white is it encompasses all the colors, but we'll get to that in a second. So they're saying, what we want you guys to start doing is go out and start to have really bold and beautiful discussions. Like what Anthony was sharing yesterday, they said the timing of his death was crucial. He was meant to come and share not just this little community, but share a larger reminder of what his life was a representation of for the entire collective consciousness wants to have this and both experience of going and experiencing other cultures. Go and experience other people. A lot of you guys in your belief systems think I need to stay safe. I want to find people who are just like me, and you cluster and group together. We've been really encouraging Allison to get outside of her little spiritual bubble and not just go find another spiritual bubble. But so what I've been noticing is I'm called to read lots of different types of religious texts. I'm called to look at all these different places and find what's alike about them. And it's always just, it's love underneath it all. They're like, what's the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Nothing. They're just pure love. They love politics. Like they exist in a certain system, like they believe, you know, they're like, there's nothing, there's no difference. It's all just love. So what you do is you kind of see all the beautiful differences that you all have, because again, you're in physical bodies you see separated consciousness. Some of you guys will see energy glimpses of people to remind you that you're all alike, and to just see beings as energy is really a profound experience, because you realize, wow, everyone looks the same because it's all the same energy. But we want you to have the and both of realizing it is all the same, it is all love, but it also gets to have all these rainbow of expressions. Like it's beautiful, right? So there's a lot of call to community right now. So if you're feeling that, Infinitely Wise Women is a great group. It's a very diverse group. Even the gifts that are evolving in that group are very unique. And everyone in there, you know, a lot of people come from different backgrounds, very different backgrounds, and have different types of jobs. And, you know, some are moms and some aren't in different parts of the country. It's really cool. And we even have someone who is not in the US, so it's really interesting. And we will have one or two more. It's like the whole it takes a village mentality. I've been getting that too. I've been getting that a lot around kids. Like how the do it alone mentality is starting, like it's like Source is kind of done with it. It's experienced it, and now it's like, yeah, okay, we had that experience, we enjoyed that, and it's going to be an and both for a while, where people are having the autonomy and the independence, and yet the partnerships. That's kind of where I am. Like I like autonomy and independence. I like some me time, some silence and stillness, but I also fucking love meeting people and being with my friends and being with my kid and having relationships, and you know what I mean? So it's there'll be an and both for a while, and then we'll come to a point in the consciousness evolution, which is really just the awareness of consciousness, where more and more people will be very, very aware of the fact that we are all one, and they'll be very openly talking about it, and they're saying that's going to be a really beautiful point in your evolutionary journeys. It's a ways off, but there's a lot of people who are in it right now where they're recognizing that oneness. So I've got to get going, you guys. I got to hop on a call in 15 minutes. I am having the joy of getting a reading done for myself, because like I said, I just like having the experience of receiving. When I come to readings, sometimes I have questions, and sometimes I'm like, I don't even have questions. I'm just like, I want the experience of being guided by someone else. I want the sharing experience. I'm cool with this. You know what I mean? And so I really encourage you guys, even if you're mediums and channels, you don't have to do this alone. So it's not, you also don't have to go into a reading with a seeking perspective of like, this is outside of me, I don't get to enjoy this, I can't access this myself. Have the perspective of it's an and both. It's going to be a beautiful experience. I get to have a great conversation with a friend who's like kind of becoming we're like joint mentors. you know, like just sharing experiences with each other. So I feel like kids being born now are way more aware than when we were born. Their kids have always been just as aware as they are. What's different is that you are more aware. More of the parents are aware and they're talking about it. There are children and who were born in the past generations where their parents were like, oh, I knew my kid was talking to angels and guides and deceased relatives and stuff, but they just didn't speak of it, right? It wasn't shared, it wasn't talked about. They were worried about, it was really easy to get hospitalized in the past for like stuff like that. They were like, if women had fainting spells, they would put them in mental health institutions sometimes. If they weren't listening to their husbands, they could be put away in mental health institutions. So they're saying there's, you know, a lot happening. And so, yeah, a lot of these kids will just be, it'll be recognized more, praised more, not just praised, but honored, but praising will happen more and facilitated as something that they'll keep and not shut down from. They won't want to be so engrossed in the separated consciousness. A lot of these kids, they're more called towards community. So that's my cue. I'm gonna get going, you guys. I've got a call in a little bit. So love you all. Thank you so much for joining me and for being here. And if you're interested in Infinitely Wise Women, let me know if you have questions, PM me, and I'm gonna get going, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.